All right. Good morning, one. Good morning, all. It is Sunday. Just when you thought it was summer, Alberta has something else for you. Just when you thought it was safe. All y'all that was out there with your sandals and your summer pants and your hot pants and your short sleeve shirts and you're gonna work on your suntan in pretty much April, May just starts.
Alberta's like, we got news for you.
I told y'all.
Nothing can stop us. We suntan at -1.
I told y'all. Don't tempt the weather. And of course, sure enough.
Yep. Here we go.
We're back down to 0.
Yeah.
That was a whole 30-degree drop.
That's a big plunge.
It was a test to see our resolve.
Hey, listen, man. I tell everyone, if it doesn't say June.
Yeah. After May long, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
It's just a preview of coming attraction.
Yeah, it's a teaser. It's playing with you right now. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it.
Not at all.
That's right. But we're back. It is Sunday morning. Thank you for waking up and riding with us this morning. I am, of course, your host, the one and only Big G. And today is a kickoff of a new chapter of our Sunday show. Last week, we got a chance to tip the hat and give some love to Lady Phoenix as she moves on to some other ventures. And also bring in the new crew that's going to be running Sundays. I'm going to be taking some Sundays off. I'm looking forward to it. So when we come back, gotta make sure
Don't
that
get too excited.
gotta make sure they're up to speed first. But we got Latoya and Ulrich back in the house. And Latoya, you're going to be kind of the new lead, the new voice, the new kind of taking things over. Where are we? What are we getting into? What is this new uncharted territory?
Is it uncharted territory? Well, the show is all about unpacking. It's all about continuing on sacred conversations, but expanding it from not just an individual perspective, but taking in the collective, talking about the issues that really affect the community, and do it by having bold, brave conversations about it. I know it's Sunday morning, so we're thinking, okay, how heavy can we go on a Sunday morning?
People trying to get ready to go to church.
But guess what? Then that means that you can sit over a good meal and kind of decompress about all the stuff that are discussed early in the morning. So we're happy for those who are able to join us early mornings and unpack with us. And we are eager to see where this takes us. I like to plan, but at the same time, when you're dealing with real life issues, you have to be able to be flexible. So, I'm eager. I'm excited to see where this takes us and all the things that we explore. Bring it on.
That's right. And Sir Ulrich is in the house.
Thank you.
That's
yes,
right.
definitely.
Where you see one, you don't see. You see one, you see one.
See smoke, you see fire.
That's right. He be the smoke and she be the fire.
Right? Yeah, bring it up. The fire starter one and only.
Hey,
right?
you know what?
God, will I ever get over that?
Nope.
No. You never live that down.
No, that's just your nature. That's okay. It's like the smokestack twins from Sinners. But I mean, you guys did drop a little nugget before we went on the air. A quick public service announcement on the north side.
Yeah.
You were saying that there
was a fire. A transformer went out last night. That caused a huge fire. How many people out of power this morning?
3,004 people were out of fire. It was the transformer caused this fire to spread on the grass there. So it was a big deal.
Yeah, and that definitely. I mean, at the end of the day, with the show that we're putting forward, that definitely can cause a lot of trauma for a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
So I hope that everyone in that area is safe. Please stay safe, and definitely we want to send our regards to you. We know that is something that can be pretty difficult to experience.
for sure. Get the mic a little closer to you, Ulrich.
There we go.
There you go. That's it right there. Yeah, just getting used to the space.
Right.
But how are you gonna kick things off with us this new chapter?
Today, well, as you all know, over the past week or so, what's been buzzing in media has been the massacre, we'll call it. Can I use that word on air?
Well,
Is that
you know,
too heavy?
Well,
Well,
heavy.
before we do that,
Yeah.
let's do the trigger warning.
Yeah, we just want to advise listeners that this morning is going to be probably a bit heavy. There may be some topics that are discussed that will cause some somatic responses in your body. Will maybe cause a few flashbacks. So just be aware of what you're feeling, what you're
Yeah.
thinking in the moment, and if needed, have some support available.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, there are lots of things that are happening. So thank you for sharing that. So the first, aligning to like a forecast, is we have to shout out to Ibrahim Traore
Traore.
in Burkina Faso.
Oh, hold on.
Who has
Yeah. No.
Yeah. And this African leader has given hope, after the past few years where we've just been despondent with so many things happening and, people being attacked for freedom of speech and for standing up and people feeling fearful in, really staying true to their values. Here is this
Young.
young
Yeah.
revolutionary who isn't afraid, who is taking charge of his country, running out neo-colonial pundits, and is just like, I don't care. I am putting my country first.
Yeah, total reform.
And we're uniting. So we're watching this development because recently there was an attempted coup. And
There's been about 16 attempts on his life.
Yeah.
already.
yes, so far, yeah. So if you realize there's a movement across the world,
worldwide movement.
shout out to Jamaica who had their protest yesterday
Yeah.
as well, where we're standing in solidarity. So people are angered, people are making threats, and people are letting people know that this is not going to go down like it went down in
With
Libya
Gaddafi,
with
right?
Gaddafi or in
back
Venezuela.
or back in the 60s too. There are a
Yeah.
number of African leaders that were
taken out.
They're taken out
Yeah.
because, including one from Burkina Faso.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That they were like, no, they're a threat to the colonial
Yeah.
way of doing things.
Movement. Yeah.
Yeah. So for folks like us who are from the Caribbean, this is what we're looking for, right? To look to our African ancestral root to stand and rise, because a lot of the exploitation of our people has been because we have failed. We have failed to stand together. We have failed to offer support. So I love it. I love it. And we're like, just tell me where to go and how to
I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
Itching to go.
I'm here for it, man. Like someone once asked me, like, if I was still in Jamaica and never left, would I have gotten into politics? I said probably would have.
Yeah.
And if I was ever to rise to the height of, say, prime minister, I know what my day one
Would be.
Be.
Yeah. What would that be?
The IMF and the World Bank.
Yeah.
You can pack your bags
Out
and
of
leave.
that. Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
leave.
All their
Yeah.
austerity measures, right?
Day one.
Yeah.
Day one. You can leave.
Yeah.
Just
Pack it up and go. We'll work it out.
Yeah, we'll work it out. We'll mail your stuff to you, but
Yeah.
you can leave now. Thank you very much.
So we want to acknowledge that although we're excited about this, we are doing it with a bated breath,
Yeah.
right? Because there is a real threat there. We know how countries like the US and Europe and those who are accustomed to exploiting Africa and exploiting global South countries have been, relentless and have, done so much harm to us. And so many of us, our own trauma, our own fears,
Yes,
our
tied to
own
that.
reticent, it's coming up for us. So I want to acknowledge that this week, if you're feeling off, if you're feeling some type of way, if you're feeling heavy, these could be the things that are going through your system and going through your body. And it's totally valid. It's totally real. And yeah.
And then there's something else that happened this week in Vancouver, or last week in Vancouver.
Yeah.
Want to
Yeah.
touch on that?
Yeah, I want to touch on it. We want to acknowledge like the deep pain and the grief that is running through the Filipino community this week, last week, ongoing with the tragic loss of about 11 lives
Wow.
And
in
countless
Vancouver
injured.
and 16 injured, including a 22-month-old baby who is in critical condition right now. And when we think about the Filipino community, they are a staple here in in Canada, and they are part of the racialized group that, you know, they've faced a lot of exploitation for
Barriers,
labor,
yeah.
Labor, yeah.
you know, invisibility, intergenerational sacrifice. And so at a time when they were celebrating their heritage, celebrating their ancestry, celebrating so much because they work so hard, right?
Yes.
And at a time when you're supposed to be feeling relaxed, at a time when you're supposed to be having that communal engagement, to know that somebody left out of their way to inflict such harm on them is really heartbreaking, because from a Black perspective, and you know, we've talked about this, Eric and
Yeah.
Greg,
Yeah.
we've seen this. The collective is very meaningful for us for healing,
Yeah.
and we love to connect. I can't imagine us having carnival or having a party or whatever the case is, and somebody drives in and does that kind of harm, and how fearful we will be about going back and engaging in that community. So we want to hold space for the Filipino community, but we also want to unpack today this heavy topic.
Yeah.
Where does
And I guess one of the starting points for that conversation is the word community. Or you wanted to kind of define,
Break that down.
Yeah, break that
Yeah.
down, because like, you know, you're right, you know, that impacts not just the Filipino community of Vancouver, but the community of Vancouver itself, the psyche of Vancouver itself.
yeah.
You know, and also here in Edmonton too, because like, you know, we're planning Carry West.
Yep.
You know, we have to sit down with the city of Edmonton.
Right.
They're going to ask these questions.
Yeah.
So like,
What
when
does
you
the
when
church
you
look like?
when you look at the word community, like, how would you define that for the listeners? Because different people have different thoughts and on what that word actually means.
Yeah. So like when we talk about community, if we want to break it down to the smallest, minutest level, right? And we are individuals, but all individuals have a need to belong, right? And so our first sense of community comes from family, like immediate family. But within that setting as well, that family looks to a broader network of support, right? For sustenance, for a feeling of belonging, feeling to be a part of something, right? And so community really is being able to connect with others on all levels of our humanity, right? So an intellectual level, a psychological level, a social level. And so for a community, the Filipino community in this case, to be coming together to celebrate something that should be monumental for them in terms of their healing process, their journey, celebrating their history, their culture, their heritage. And for that to be interrupted by a moment of, I'll call it an unfortunate event, right? That caused so much damage, so much loss. Now that in and of itself is going to cause trauma for them. Whenever they're going to be gathering in such a way, right? That's going to bring up a lot of things for them, right? A lot of questions.
I have a provocative take on community.
Go for it.
Because my thing is, right, when you think about community, can we think about it through the lens of what feels safe and what isn't safe? Because a lot of us, we have families, but our family doesn't offer safety for us. So although we're related to someone by blood or by culture, it doesn't mean that we feel like they are a community for us, because it doesn't offer safety.
Definitely.
And lots of us, even in the Black community, will say skinship doesn't mean kinship.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so when we talk about community, I think we have to interrogate that, because the person who drove into Lapu attendees, he's an East Asian or South Asian individual.
No, East Asian.
East Asian. And so one would think that this wouldn't be something, a harm that you inflict on such your own people or your own community. But that was community. He was a part of the community. So how do we find safety within community?
Right, and I think that ties back to with what I mentioned a bit earlier in terms of finding that place where you're accepted, where you feel a sense of belonging on all levels. Now, what you just said as well brings me to a deeper question, because there are reports that this individual is someone that suffered from mental health challenges, right? Which brings another question, which is, how do we navigate that space where individuals who have mental health challenges feel equipped to seek support before things like this happen?
I think this is where the community is divided, and I've seen a lot of dialogue surrounding this, because lots of folks are irritated or frustrated by the fact that when people become violent, one of the first deflection or the first defense is this person has mental health to justify behaviors. And there's been a lot of outrage that, oh, this person had mental health illness or whatever the case is. And then the report said he had a history of being in the system. So let me just first declare, let me declare this. Mental illness does not equate to violence.
Yeah.
Amen.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
Because automatically people believe that, okay, if somebody has schizophrenia, if somebody has bipolar disorder, if somebody has borderline personality disorder, it's a stigma that they're going to be violent and we should be afraid of them. And you know what? The truth is, we've done a lot of work in trying to destigmatize mental health in communities, in spaces where people wouldn't normally ask for help. So it's almost like it's a step
It's like
back,
a backward step, right?
where people, this narrative is being fed in the media that when people have mental illness, they're violent. We should be afraid of them. But
Well, in Jamaica too, like we all grew up. When you say a madman in Jamaica,
A picture comes to your mind right away, right?
exactly,
Yeah,
right?
somebody
We all-
that's homeless on the road.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we as Jamaicans grew up
yeah,
with that narrative being fed to us.
yeah, yeah,
And it's just wrong.
yeah.
But the other part of the narrative is untreated trauma, right? So one can have mental illness and live a totally comfortable life. You're getting the help that you need. You're on your medications. You're getting the support. You're surrounded by the community and the safety and the belonging that you need. Your needs are being met. But I think the big discussion has to be, what is the impact of untreated trauma? Systemic barriers, isolation. What's the role that all of those play in somebody snapping or, getting to that point of frustration? Where was that person? And why is it that they were in the system and
Not being helped.
Those are powerful questions.
yeah. Remember when we were in Regina? We lived in Regina, and this is what spurred a lot of our activism surrounding mental health.
Samuel?
Yeah. I'm not sure if we're allowed to call his name, but may his soul rest in peace. But this young man was a black youth. He had migrated from BC to Regina to play football. And he had some mental health struggles at some point. At that time, I was working in healthcare as well.
Yeah.
And this was, I think, around the same time as COVID.
Yeah.
And I remember it was so heartbreaking because there were videos that show that he went to the hospital to seek help.
Seek help. Yeah.
He begged them. He said, I don't know what is happening to me. It doesn't feel right. Can I get some help?
Totally
and
dismissed.
He was dismissed and he was sent back. They thought he was on drugs or something.
Yeah.
And that's the first thing that comes up. Oh, a black man.
A black man turning up to the hospital.
He's on
So,
drugs.
Yeah, something's wrong. Yeah.
Or
He's
somebody
high.
from the indigenous community comes
Yeah.
in. Oh, they're drinking. They're on
Yeah.
drugs. So those narratives and those stereotypes can be very harmful. And he went back, even though he was shunned. He went back and he begged for help.
So he was really
Yeah.
seeking support.
Support.
Yeah.
And the unfortunate thing is that he was found, he had taken his own life in the Wascana Lake. And it was a ripple through the community because he begged for help. So that again brings into focus that, guess what? People with mental illness don't usually seek to harm people. They tend to harm themselves, or they tend to feel as though they're exploited. Most people come to me and they have mental health illnesses. They usually ask, how can I establish better boundaries? How can I say this to somebody else? How can I prevent myself from not feeling shame and guilt? I'm yet to have a client come in to say, can you support me in harming somebody else? That hasn't happened. So I think it's important that we focus on the real issues
Yeah.
rather than always scapegoating mental health as the reason
As the excuse for things happening.
Yeah.
And we'll talk more about it after this. Yes, that was a classic Bob Marley. Crazy ball.
Right,
Lads.
chase them.
Chase them crazy. Keep going Burkina Faso, keep going Niger, keep going Malawi. Keep doing what you're doing. You guys have started something on the African coast.
Enough, right?
Yes.
There's really a resistance that's being built, and there is a movement that's being started, and hopefully continues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
Now, I have a question kind of based on the conversation around that we started with what happened in Vancouver. And it kind of rolls into lots of tragedies and things we see happen. And like we can talk mainly from like the black community perspective, where I remember a couple of years ago in the U.S. Congress, the Democratic Party led by Nancy Pelosi decided that in honor of George Floyd, to remember him, they were all going to put on kente cloth
Yeah.
and go kneel and pray in the halls of Congress in the U.S. to show solidarity for black people who they've made countless rules against
Right?
since time immemorial. What would, and they're doing it under this the guise of support.
Yeah.
What is good support and what is bad support from a community level in terms of when things like this happen?
Here's one of the things, right? There's support which is wholehearted, and is meant to really help communities that are suffering to elevate from that position. And then there's support that's done in order to be in the limelight, to be seen, to be perceived as doing something. So it becomes self-serving, right? And so for me, there's that line that's crossed where, is what you're doing performative? Is it just to check a box to say, I did this, look at me?
Look at me, my kente cloth.
Right? Look at me now. Or is it something that's meant to help the community? Meaningful. For example, Pelosi is sitting there. You can enact laws that affect millions of people.
From different groups?
From different groups.
Yeah.
Why not do that?
I'll share a personal experience to reiterate that point. I agree with you, Alaric. Because I always say to people, excuse me, don't label yourself an ally.
Yeah. Wait.
Let those who are impacted see your work and say, here is an ally. And I find that a lot of people put on this title of allyship without even recognizing what allyship is. And I think a lot of times what happens is people are afraid to sit in the discomfort and recognizing that they do harm as well, even unintentionally. So lots of times when you try to talk to somebody about what they do and their impact on reinforcing a lot of the damage, their first defense is, I didn't, you're attacking me.
The Karenicity comes out.
Karenism. So I'll share the personal experience now. So when my son was racialized in Saskatchewan, we had a friend. So when we just moved to Canada, we moved and we met this lady, a white-bodied woman, and she was fantastic. Like most of the furniture, like she would bring stuff over, she would help out, she would buy a pot or two or three and whatever. And we were very grateful because at that time we had newly immigrated.
We were just settling.
We're just settling. So I find that sometimes people like to see you in a place of destitution
So that they can be the
a
savior.
savior.
Yep.
So I don't know what she believed about us, but when we started becoming very successful, things changed. And every time, like when we bought our house, when we bought our car, she was aghast at, oh my God, you're so successful, and things like those. But it didn't bother me so much. More so when our son was racialized. At that time, I was on social media. I was on Facebook, and it was so painful that I'd made a social media post to say, you know, it's unfortunate that a 9-year-old child can experience these things. And she was probably one of the first persons to see the post. And she messaged me privately.
I don't want to I don't want to interrupt that, but I think it's important to also lay a foundation before that this person is very active on social media,
Very active.
and is willing to post almost anything for anyone, especially around animals, or events or anything.
Yeah.
So she's kind of like a community promoter,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And when this happened, you can go ahead
Yeah.
now.
So I thank you for that,
Yeah.
because I'd even forgotten. Because the week before, there was a promotion about animals, saving animals, and we had even made a donation to save animals and the ducks and whatever the case is, because this was an animal lover. Bear in mind, too, that this was a person who every year she takes back used bras and so forth to Tanzania in Africa. This is something I'm doing for the people. I love Black people. So when she private messaged me to ask me, oh my God, I'm so sorry, what can I do? Your son is so wonderful, he's so beautiful. I said, well, you're here, you're public, why
Share the
don't you
post.
use your platform to say that I know these people, humanize us, because obviously my son wasn't humanized in order for him to be treated in this way. You know what she said to me? I don't post my personal life on social media. And I'm like, girl,
Yeah.
racism isn't personal.
Yeah.
This isn't personal.
Yeah.
And I remember she deflected and she said, okay, it was during the time of George Floyd, and we were planning to show how white folks and Black folks can collaborate. So we were planning to dress like twins and walk and march, and to show people the power of collaboration and the collective.
Because there was at the time as well a march
protest,
on
yeah.
a protest, a march on the legislature.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
In Regina,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And we marched down with our placards, all of that,
Yeah.
and we invited her to come,
Yeah.
right? And she flat out like
And she,
refused.
well, before she was okay until we said, you know, this is going to be a platform to humanize. And she said, no, I don't put my personal life on social media. In that moment, the heart-jobbing part and the message that I received is that you can talk about animals. You can
talk about
value
anything
and
else.
advocate for animals. And you value my child less than an animal, where you want to keep it private. You want to message me private. And people who do not know me were reaching out on social media and calling and decrying. Now, she believed she did nothing wrong. And when I called her out to say, this is what is the problem, her response was, you're attacking me. I was clear. I said, you don't get to make this about you. Your child wasn't racialized.
Yeah.
You're not a parent who has to suffer.
Yep.
So what happens with people who are doing
Good.
gestures of performative,
Yeah.
it's focused on how does that make me feel inside?
Or look to the
Or
public.
look to the public rather
Yeah.
than how does this make the victim himself, themselves feel.
Yeah.
And that has to be what guides our ability to support people, because meaningless support is not helpful.
Yeah. Can I throw just a little tiny little monkey wrench in your thing there?
No, you
Yeah.
can. But I mean, yes, you can.
So, and this is just me and how I operate personally.
Yeah.
Like, I really don't care much for the word ally and allyship. I believe that if we, just as people,
Yeah.
live as people with the mindset of I'm helping my brother when my brother needs my help. I'm helping my sister when she needs my help. Your kids are my kids.
Yeah.
So if your kids are in trouble, my job is to help protect your children, and I expect you to do the same when my kids are in trouble. Right? At that point, you don't need to call me an ally. I'm not an ally.
Yeah. You're a human.
I'm your mate.
Yes.
I'm your friend.
Great.
Yes.
I'm your brother.
Oh, great. Great. That is a big... sound the alarm for that one.
Right?
So because, Greg, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, my brother BK would tell the same thing.
Like, that's where I'm at. I'm saying, if I'm helping you, I don't need any publicity.
Yeah.
I feel like the word
I don't need a
allyship
label.
and the word ally was created to feed the ego of somebody who wants publicity surrounding it.
Exactly.
Like, why do I need to help you? And there has to be a title.
Yeah.
And I have to promote it on social media. And I have to know ally of the indigenous community, ally of the black community. I don't care about being ally. There doesn't need to be allyship if we see each other as human.
And I think at the end of the day as well, it's the actions that show, right? Because at the end of the day, the person who is on the receiving end of this support knows
That
what
you're
that
genuine.
feels like, right? And they know that I am being supported by this person, regardless of what your phenotype looks like, what your skin type looks like. You feel support, you feel love, and you know that.
Yeah.
But you know what we have to talk about? We have to really bring into focus that somebody who's going through a traumatic event are so emotional that they don't even know what their needs are.
Oh, that's deep.
Anybody coming in to offer support,
Yeah.
they don't have time to discern and to think who is really genuine from who isn't genuine, because their focus is on their pain
Their
right
safety,
now.
yeah.
So I think the question has to be, how do we save? How do we internally save ourselves from exploiting other people and other people's pain?
That's deep. That's deep. Because when someone is in pain as well, the only thing they want is for that pain to stop.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. And it could be the smallest of gestures
Yep.
that contribute to that.
Yep. Yep. Just give me the pill. Don't worry about explaining the symptoms. Just give me the pill.
Yeah.
And bear in mind, too, that for people, like when you think about the Filipino community, they've been invisible for a long time.
Yeah.
And the only thing that makes them visible is the work. You know, people see them for their work. So now that people are seeing them for their grief, if wanting to be seen was a response or something that was a need, any attention that you get at this point, that they get at this point, is a welcomed attention, but also not discerning that there may be harm in that attention, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I think hopefully as a community, we can protect, we can advocate, we can, you know, we don't want to cocoon because we don't want to save people. I don't like the savior complex,
savior complex.
right? I
Complex,
don't like
no.
it.
But I mean, like, honestly, like, support could just be, hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then creating the space for them to genuinely say, I'm not okay.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
this week alone, like I have clients who are Filipino, and I'm like, holy, what do? I don't want to tell them come to therapy.
Yeah.
I don't want to say whatever. And I was writing a text to one of my clients to just say, hey, you know, I know how wonderful you are. I know how, you know, you put people first. And then I said, you know, a text doesn't do justice. I want to call. And I called, didn't pick up, and I left a voice message. And then there were quite a few that I said, you know what? Probably they need to hear my voice. And I made sure not to make it in the form of come to therapy, come to pay for services. That's not what this is about. I'm holding space for you. Let's go.
Yes, y'all. We're back here jamming away, heading down to the home stretch of the show. Shireen, we see you in the chat. She mentioned excellent discussion. Feel free to leave your notes and comments in the chat. We will always shout it out as we see it, as we scroll through for the day. Now, in the home stretch, I know you wanted to kind of get back on the original point of that mental health support.
Yeah. It's well, thank you for bringing back that conversation, because there is stigma around mental health, and identifying yourself as struggling, right? And there is also a concern where some people feel unsafe, right? If someone says they're struggling from mental health, especially in wake of an incident like this. So how do we, question for you, Latoya, how do we bridge that gap in terms of the public safety, but still reducing the stigma surrounding mental health? What does that look like?
You know, the reality is stigma is only surrounding the unraveling. Because many of us who look to be okay, who look to be functional, but yet have mental health issues.
Yes.
We're not necessarily stigmatized. We're glorified, you know? Oh, they're so strong. Oh my God, I just
Yes.
love that,
Yes.
right?
You don't like the strong black woman
Yeah,
complex?
the
Yes.
strong black woman narrative, right? But the stigma comes in when we see people falling apart. But why are they falling apart?
Right.
Is it because of the mental health issues? Is it because of the trauma? Or is it that there is a housing insecurity? Is it that a disclosure was made to family and family didn't respond positively? Is it that there's some racism surrounding the stigma? Is it that, you know, they're drinking now to drink the
Yeah.
pain away? Is it poverty? Because a lot of people who have mental health issues, there is it's this affordability.
Yeah.
There's so
Sense of
many
something.
layers with that.
Yeah.
And then oftentimes, you know, that is used as a crutch to discriminate against people to say, well, if you have this, you can't come into I can't rent to you.
Yes.
You can't do that. So housing issues are there. So there are so many multiple layers as it relates to what are we seeing in the present. So I don't know if I can say that it is necessarily mental health that is stigmatized, but I think it's the presentation of the unraveling because of mental health that is being
That is
stigmatized.
so deep, because when you say that brings me back, and I've always been vocal about my own struggles with mental health. I went through a really tough patch about 4 or 5 years ago. And it's funny that you say that, because I remember I was living in Ontario at the time in Newmarket, and I remember walking the streets of Newmarket looking like a functional individual, right? I'm what you would call a high functioning depressed person. And I remember just walking, feeling the way I was feeling and looking around me, and I'm like, I wonder how many other people around me right now are having that experience where they're having to put on a show for the public because they don't want to be seen as dangerous or that stigma being attached to them. But on the inside, there's so much going on, right? And one of the things that's important to that is at the end of the day, I never felt as if I wanted to harm anyone. I just needed support. And the worst part about that is that I was told that I had to be on a waiting list for 6 months before I got any support.
So then there are like some real systemic issues
Exactly.
around how people can access forget the stigma, the system's messed up.
Exactly.
Because the reality is therapy is expensive, right? Therapy is expensive. And even within my practice, I see the disparity. People who are in, you know, white collar jobs and, you know, executive roles, they have a higher benefit package. And oftentimes, yes, they utilize it, but the ones who really need my services, they can't afford it. They are only able to come because it's a $500 benefit that they have. There's a sliding scale. And let me tell you, black people are proud people, you know.
Very true,
If it's $500 they have, they ain't begging. Let me tell you, I pay my $500. Even if you're saying, I'll give you free, you can come at this rate. They're like, the pride will not allow them to come and access the services because I don't want to feel like I'm a burden to you. I don't want to feel like I'm begging you. So it's really, really hard to even help because there's that internalized value as well, where I don't want to. No, I don't want
Yeah,
anybody
yeah.
sorry for me.
Yeah.
I don't want you to think me I'm a poor thing.
Yeah.
I don't whatever. And it's always so hard to get them to access the services. It's not that they don't want to,
Yeah.
but it's really, really traumatizing or destabilizing for you to make a connection with somebody. You share your information. You feel like there is safety there.
Yeah, and then
You
that
have
has
to
to be
stop.
severed.
Then you have to start over
Yeah.
again, or you have to go with somebody else, and it is very,
That
very
can cause more trauma,
Yeah.
right?
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we have to change the way that we support people. And I always say to people, having therapy, as in you sitting down in a room and talking to a therapist, isn't the only way
not
that
the
we
only
can
form.
get wraparound services.
Yeah.
There was a guy on social media. I think it was your social media. I saw it
Yeah.
on Eric. This black guy.
Care?
Care,
Yeah.
yes. And he was talking about just, he was having a males group. And he was saying, let's connect with a friend and say, call me. I'm not doing well this week.
Yeah, check up on
Call
me.
me at least once per
Yeah.
week just to check in. Just to check in, because it's menacing to be isolated because we're social beings,
Yeah.
right? And so, shout out to all the people. Last week was a tough week for me, and I was able to text somebody and say, hey, do you want to go for a walk? Do you want to do this? And although it never materialized to a walk, the fact that the person responded and said, yeah, when you want to do this, hey,
It meant something.
it
Yeah.
meant something. It meant everything. It never materialized because of many other issues that were happening. But the person followed up and the person said, hey, probably I'll offer a prayer. That is care.
Yeah.
People like to feel belonged.
Yeah.
And I think that is where we have to start listening to people, having conversations with people, and genuinely connect with people. It's not that Canadian thing like, hi, how are you doing? And then you can't, if somebody says, oh, I'm not doing great, you're like, okay, bye.
Bye.
Right. See you next time.
Right, next time.
Awesome. Well, it is 10 to the hour. That was a
That went by
great
fast.
intro. Yeah, the hour goes by super fast. I know you said you wanted to also give a shout out to Phoenix.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, didn't we? Oh, my gosh. That is so awful.
Well, I forgot.
You know what? Hathora, Lady Phoenix, we just want to make space to honor
Yeah.
the platform that you provided over the past 7 months that you have held down the space here at my radio. Hope we do justice
Right.
to this slot, but we just want to honor and value that we're quite humbled that we were selected or we were thought of to replace such huge shoes
Pretty huge shoes.
here. And although the segment is no longer called Sacred Conversations, we honor continuing conversations in a mimicking what was, but also making space for what can be.
Yeah.
So, Hathora, you're probably listening, or
Sound
you're
the
not. Sound the horn.
Sound the horn?
We honor you, my darling.
Sound the horn. Awesome. Well, thank you all for listening. Thank you all for riding with us. It has been a great start to the Sunday. Hopefully, we got your Sunday off to a good start. I'll be back on Friday with the next 48 with Special K, talking about all things happening in and around Edmonton. Today, FYI, down at Old Strathcona Farmers Market. Today is the first day that they're opening up for 2 days. Usually it's only Saturday. Starting today, they're doing Saturday, Sunday. And my radio 580 AM will be live on location at Old Strathcona Farmers Market all day today.
Nice.
So swing by the market, check out some of the local makers, the local food, local produce, local farmers. Swing by the My Radio 580 booth, win a few prizes. And, the farmers market is something that a lot of us grew up with. And that particular market is an institution here in the city of Edmonton. So swing on by. It is May the 4th. May the 4th be with you all.
And Greg, can we just, Big G, can we just reiterate that, I think it's important that people leave with the message
Yep.
that mental health does not equate to violence.
Yeah.
Yep.
And, you know, we have to start normalizing vulnerability and having the courage to speak about our own struggles. It doesn't mean that we're going to open up and tell everybody everything about
Yeah.
our lives, but it's okay to not be okay,
And
right?
creating that space.
I just want to say that if somebody is struggling out there, if somebody needs encouragement out there, there are several resources that can be tapped into. If you're having thoughts of, you know, suicide, 988 is a line that you can call, and there are always options to connect with individuals who can support you. So thank you for listening. I hope that today wasn't too heavy for you, but these are necessary conversations that need to be had so that we can continue to revolutionize the space of mental health so that when we heal, we can heal together. Thank you.
All right, y'all. We'll see y'all next week. Till then.